Attack of the Clones wasn't just another sci-fi blockbuster, it was revolution disguised as spectacle, technology weaponized into storytelling. When it exploded into theaters in 2002, audiences thought they were watching a Star Wars prequel. They weren't. They were watching cinema abandon film forever and call it progress. A digital camera that rewrote Hollywood's rulebook, a Senate floor that mirrored real-world collapse, and a clone army rendered entirely from code. These are 20 hidden details you completely missed in Attack of the Clones. Number 20. Attack of the Clones became the first major Hollywood feature ever shot entirely with digital cinema cameras instead of traditional film. George Lucas and cinematographer David Tattersall had to develop and test cameras with Sony that could deliver film quality imagery at resolutions nobody had proven possible yet. The decision set the stage for the digital revolution in filmmaking that followed across the entire industry. Studios watched nervously as Lucas abandoned celluloid completely, gambling that pixels could replace grain without sacrificing theatrical grandeur. The cameras themselves were prototypes, temperamental and unproven during early production phases, but Lucas refused to compromise, believing digital capture would eventually dominate cinema whether Hollywood was ready or not. The gamble paid off, and within a decade, film cameras became museum pieces rather than industry standards. Number 19. Because footage was recorded digitally, directors and crew could watch scenes instantly right after filming them on set. Big monitors showed exactly what the camera captured, letting departments adjust makeup designed by Nikki Gooley, costumes created by Trisha Bigger, and lighting in real time. This instant feedback loop was unheard of on large-scale productions at the time. George Lucas could review performances immediately and make adjustments before moving to the next setup. Actors including Ewan McGregor and Natalie Portman adapted quickly, using playback to refine subtle expressions that would have required reshoots on traditional film production. The technology eliminated guesswork from complex visual effects sequences. Digital playback collapsed the gap between capture and evaluation, fundamentally altering how big-budget films were made. Number 18. Before filming even started, many of the movie's biggest action sequences were created as detailed digital animatics by the pre-visualization team. These rough computer scenes allowed George Lucas to block scenes, motion, and camera movements long before actors stepped on sets designed by Gavin Bocquet. Actors often performed against green screens guided by these placeholders, so they knew where to look during complex sequences. The Geonosis arena battle existed entirely in digital form months before any live-action photography began on sound stages. Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor watched animatics to understand how their lightsaber choreography would integrate with CGI creatures and digital environments. The pre-visualization process became a blueprint that every department referenced throughout production. Lucas treated these rough animations as the first draft of action sequences. Number 17. Even though we see thousands of clone soldiers in battle, none of them were played by live-action extras in armor during the big fights on Geonosis. Instead, every trooper in the major battle scenes was created with computer graphics by Industrial Light and Magic's animation team. Some motion capture helped inform their movement, but the army itself was fully virtual across every wide shot. Temuera Morrison provided the genetic template face and voice, but his physical presence existed only in close-up dialogue scenes. The decision to build the army digitally allowed Lucas to create battle scales impossible with practical extras or miniatures. Animators could populate entire battlefields with thousands of soldiers moving in coordinated formations. What audiences assumed were costumed extras were actually algorithmic variations of Morrison's features multiplied across digital regiments. Number 16. If you look closely during the climactic battle, one clone helmet display briefly shows the number 1138 on internal readout screens. That number is a recurring nod to George Lucas's earliest feature film, THX 1138, and he likes to hide it throughout his work as a signature. It's a tiny detail tucked into a sea of digital soldiers that most viewers never catch during screening. The reference appears for less than 2 seconds during a quick helmet interior shot, visible only to the most obsessive fans reviewing footage frame by frame. Production designer Gavin Bouquet and the visual effects team at Industrial Light and Magic included the Easter egg deliberately. The number has appeared in nearly every Lucas-produced film since the 1970s, a private joke that became a treasure hunt for dedicated audiences. Number 15. The awkward dinner chat between Anakin and Padme, including the memorable aggressive negotiations line, wasn't fully scripted in advance. Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman improvised much of their back and forth to get more natural reactions during shooting on the Naboo Lake retreat sets. That improvisation ended up giving the romance its peculiar, memorable rhythm that divided audiences and critics. Director George Lucas encouraged the actors to find authentic chemistry through spontaneous dialogue, rather than rigidly following scripted exchanges. The "I don't like sand" monologue emerged partially from this improvisational approach, with Christensen exploring Anakin's emotional disconnection through awkward vulnerability. Portman responded in the moment, creating a dynamic that felt genuinely uncertain rather than polished. Lucas wanted discomfort, believing that Anakin's limited social experience would manifest as clumsy attempts at intimacy. Number 14. Mace Windu's purple lightsaber didn't come from franchise tradition established across previous films. It came from Samuel L. Jackson's personal request to George Lucas during early production meeting. He wanted a distinctive blade so he could spot himself easily in group action scenes during the Geonosis arena battle. The choice stuck and became one of the most visually iconic lightsabers in the prequels, instantly recognizable among the sea of blue and green blades. But Jackson's enthusiasm convinced him that a unique color would add visual variety without contradicting established lore. The purple blade subtly suggested Mace's position between traditional Jedi philosophy and darker combat methods. Prop master Tony Tiger created the custom saber hilt to match Jackson's specific grip preferences. Number 13. Inside the Jedi archives, numerous head sculptures of past Jedi aren't random alien designs created without reference. Many are subtle likenesses of crew, members, and visual effects artists who worked on the film at Industrial Light and Magic. It's a hidden tribute for sharp-eyed viewers to discover deep in Coruscant's vast data vaults during Obi-Wan's investigation. Production designer Gavin Bouquet encouraged the sculpture team to immortalize behind-the-scenes contributors as background Easter eggs. The busts appear for seconds during Obi-Wan's walkthrough, never highlighted or explained in dialogue. Some faces belong to animators who spent years developing digital characters and environments throughout the prequel trilogy. Others represent concept artists whose designs shaped the visual language of the expanded Star Wars universe. The tribute went almost completely unnoticed until fans began freeze-framing background details. Number 12. Unlike earlier appearances, Yoda in this movie was completely performed by computer animation in every scene without any practical puppet elements. Animators at Industrial Light and Magic took great care to mimic the way the original Frank Oz puppet moved, including ear twitches and head tilts. The result was a digital Yoda that still felt rooted in the character's physical history established across the original trilogy. The decision to go fully digital proved controversial among fans who cherished the tactile puppet performance from The Empire Strikes Back, but Lucas believed digital animation would allow Yoda mobility impossible with puppet rods and constraints. The lightsaber duel against Count Dooku required acrobatic movements no puppet could physically achieve convincingly. Animation supervisor Rob Coleman studied Oz's original performance extensively, ensuring digital Yoda retained the subtle performance quirks. Number 11. The lightsaber duel between Count Dooku and Yoda was choreographed using ideas from martial arts and dynamic motion studies by stunt coordinator Nick Gillard. Yoda's unexpected agility came from blending traditional character animation with influences from high-energy physical performance styles including wushu. This gave one of the saga's smallest characters surprising presence in the fight against Christopher Lee's towering Dooku. Animators studied footage of martial artists to understand how speed and precision could compensate for Yoda's physical size disadvantage. The sequence required months of animation refinement to make Yoda's movements feel grounded rather than cartoonish. Lee performed his portions of the duel against empty space, reacting to a Yoda that would be added months later. The contrast between Lee's classical fencing style and Yoda's acrobatic fury created visual tension that defined their confrontation. Number 10. The desert planet Geonosis wasn't just another alien landscape created without thematic purpose by concept artists. Its design intentionally blends organic rock formations with mechanical structures, creating a world that feels like a living factory. Spiky spires, cavernous arenas, and industrial accents make the world feel like a massive workshop dedicated to mass production. Production designer Gavin Bouquet studied insect hive architecture and industrial revolution factories to create environments that felt simultaneously natural and manufactured. The planet's red-orange color palette contrasted sharply with the cool blues of Kamino and the lush greens of Naboo. The Geonosian inhabitants themselves mirror their architecture, with their insectoid appearance reinforcing the hive-like nature of their society. The droid foundries visible in background shots emphasize Geonosis as the birthplace of the war machine. Number 9. Although the clone soldiers were digital creations in the final film, animators used a select few physical helmets and props during motion capture sessions at Industrial Light and Magic. Having real objects on hand helped performers gesture and move more convincingly during reference recording. Those subtle physical references helped bring more realism into the fully CGI army that audiences saw on screen. The weight and restriction of actual armor informed how digital clones moved, ensuring they didn't feel weightless or unnaturally fluid. Temuera Morrison wore partial costume pieces during voice recording sessions, allowing his physicality to influence animated performances. The combination of practical reference and digital execution created a hybrid approach that balanced efficiency with authenticity. These practical anchors prevented digital soldiers from moving like video game characters rather than armored warriors. Number 8. 8, the tall, elegant Kaminoans have an unsettling, serene presence that comes from reference movement studies conducted by animation team. Animators drew inspiration from slow, flowing human motion styles like Tai Chi to give them a unique rhythm distinct from other Star Wars species. The result looks alien, yet strangely graceful on screen, emphasizing their genetic engineering expertise through refined physicality. The Kaminoans' elongated necks and limbs required careful animation to avoid looking fragile during dialogue scenes. Their movements suggest complete bodily control, reinforcing their role as master cloners who understand biological systems intimately. Voice actress Reyna Owen provided subtle performance reference for the Kaminoan Prime Minister Lama Su during recording sessions. The deliberate slowness of their gestures creates an eerie contrast with the militaristic urgency of the clone production facilities surrounding them. Number 7. Before Hayden Christensen was cast as Anakin, the filmmakers considered a range of other actors for the part during extensive auditions. Some were known for dramatic roles, others for more rebellious energy, and each would have given Anakin a different emotional tone. Ultimately, casting was influenced not just by talent, but by on-screen chemistry with Natalie Portman during screen tests. Actors including Paul Walker, Ryan Philippe, and Colin Hanks reportedly auditioned for the role before Christensen emerged. Casting director Robin Gurlin conducted screen tests that focused on capturing Anakin's volatile mix of charm and darkness. Lucas needed someone who could convincingly portray both a romantic lead and a character sliding toward villainy across two films. Christensen's intensity during emotional scenes convinced Lucas he could handle Anakin's eventual transformation into Darth Vader. Number 6. Longtime Star Wars contributor Anthony Daniels makes a surprise appearance in Coruscant's crowded city scenes without his usual C-3PO costume. He appears in civilian clothing as a background character, a subtle cameo that rewards fans who pay close attention to busy sequences. These hidden appearances became a tradition Daniels enjoyed, inserting himself into the saga's human world after decades of robotic performance. The cameo required no special makeup or costume beyond standard extras wardrobe provided by Trisha Bigger's department. Daniels blended completely into Coruscant street crowds, visible for seconds during establishing shots that most viewers never scrutinize. Other crew members and minor contributors received similar background cameos throughout the film as production tradition. The practice honored longtime collaborators while adding layers of insider detail for obsessive fans to discover. Number 5. Obi-Wan Kenobi's Delta 7 Jedi Starfighter blends recognizable shapes with new design elements created by concept artists. Its sleek lines and compact structure serve as a visual bridge between earlier prequel technology and later eras of Starfighter design seen in the original trilogy. It's a background detail that rewards fans familiar with the broader ship lineage across the saga's timeline. The design team studied the evolution of spacecraft across the Star Wars universe to ensure the Delta 7 felt consistent. The exposed cockpit and lack of built-in hyperdrive differentiated Jedi fighters from military vessels, emphasizing their role as personal transports rather than combat craft. The addition of the external astromech droid R4P-17 provided companionship while solving the hyperdrive limitation through modular design. Industrial Light and Magic built detailed digital models that could withstand close-up scrutiny. Number 4. The scene where the Galactic Senate grants Chancellor Palpatine expanded emergency powers mirrors real-world political moments throughout history. Governments have repeatedly accepted broad executive powers during crisis periods, only to find them nearly impossible to relinquish afterward. This narrative choice gives the politics in Star Wars a grounded, unsettling realism that transcends science fiction escapism. George Lucas deliberately structured Palpatine's rise, using historical precedents from democratic collapses across multiple civilizations and eras. The scene's visual staging, with Palpatine centered among cheering senators, echoes propaganda imagery from authoritarian movements. Ian McDiarmid's performance balanced charm with menace, making Palpatine's manipulation seem reasonable rather than obviously villainous to observers. The thunderous applause from representatives who don't understand they're endorsing their own subjugation became chillingly prophetic. Number 3. When Obi-Wan investigates the Jedi archives, his path through the hallways is filled with subtle visual cues planted by production designer Gavin Bouquet. At one point, he pauses by a bust of Count Dooku, a Jedi who once walked the Order's halls before turning away. That moment foreshadows future story beats and underscores Dooku's complicated past within the Jedi hierarchy. The sculpture appears briefly during Obi-Wan's conversation with Jocasta Nu, visible in the background without any dialogue calling attention to it. Most viewers never consciously register the bust's presence during initial viewings of the archive sequence. The detail rewards fans who understand Dooku's history and recognize the visual irony of his honored place among Jedi legends. Christopher Lee's character represents the Jedi Order's failure to prevent internal corruption and ideological fracture. Number 2. Jango Fett's role extends far beyond being a tough bounty hunter hired for a single mission. His DNA serves as as the genetic template for the entire Republic clone army, shaping the face of galactic warfare for years across the Clone Wars. Temuera Morrison's physical presence became the foundation for millions of identical soldiers serving the Republic's military ambition. The decision to use a single template rather than diverse genetic sources emphasized the clones' manufactured uniformity and dehumanized purpose. Morrison performed motion reference for clone troopers while also playing Jango directly, creating layered performances across multiple different roles. The Kaminoans presented the clone army as perfect soldiers, but their genetic dependence created strategic vulnerabilities. Number 1. Attack of the Clones was a massive financial hit, earning $300 million worldwide and thrilling audiences across its theatrical run. Despite that success, it became the first live-action Star Wars movie not to finish as the highest-grossing film of its release year domestically. It was outpaced by other blockbusters including Spider-Man, making its performance notable in franchise history for breaking the pattern. The film earned over $800 million globally, but the Spider-Man phenomenon captured cultural attention in ways the prequel couldn't match. Attack of the Clones still represented enormous commercial success by any standard measure, but the asterisk marked a shift. The Star Wars brand no longer guaranteed automatic box office supremacy against rising superhero franchises. Attack of the Clones didn't just kick off the Clone Wars on screen, it pushed cinema into a digital future that rewrote production workflows forever. From cameras that abandoned film to armies rendered entirely in code, from improvised romance to political allegory that aged into warnings, the production hid layers most audiences never consciously registered. Every frame contained choices that influenced filmmaking for decades afterward, technological gambles that became industry standards. Which hidden detail surprised you most, and what film should we open next?